In this video, I will show you how to use the Excel ISBLANK function along with some examples and important things to remember while using it. So let's get started. The Excel ISBLANK function is used to check whether a cell is blank or not. It returns true if the cell is empty and false if the cell is not empty. It has only one argument, which is the cell reference we want to check. For example, this ISBLANK formula will return true because cell B3 is empty, while this ISBLANK formula will return false because the cell B4 is not empty. In case of a cell containing one or more space characters only, like this, the ISBLANK function returns false because technically it is not empty. The ISBLANK function returns false if the cell contains a formula. For example, cell B6 contains a formula, so this ISBLANK function will return false. The cell B7 appears to be empty, but it contains a formula that returns an empty text. The ISBLANK formula returns false in this case as well. We can also use the ISBLANK function to test if a cell is not empty. To do that, we need to use the ISBLANK function along with the not function. The Excel not function reverses the value of its argument. So, if the argument is true, it becomes false, and if the argument is false, it becomes true. When we use it along with the ISBLANK function like this, it becomes the ISNOTBLANK condition instead of the ISBLANK condition. The ISBLANK function is very useful in testing for empty cells, data validation, conditional formatting, and to avoid applying a formula if the cell is empty to prevent errors. We can use the ISBLANK function to highlight all empty cells in an Excel sheet. To do that, select all the cells and then click the conditional formatting option from the top ribbon. Now click on the New Rule menu item. Select the Use a Formula to determine which cells to format option. Enter this formula in the Edit Rule description text box. Now click the Format button and go to the Fill tab. Select the desired background color to apply to the empty cells and click the OK button. Whenever this formula returns true, the selected background color will be applied to that cell. Click the OK button to close the dialog box. As you can see, all the empty cells are now having the background color we selected. It is dynamic as well, which means when we enter a value in any empty cell, the background color goes away, and when we remove the value from the cell, the selected background color will be applied automatically. The ISBLANK function can be used to validate the required data in an Excel sheet. For example, in this Excel sheet, I have first and last name details. I want to validate whether both the first and last names are entered. If any one of them is missing, I want to display a message to enter the required values. To do that, I am going to use this formula. Here, the OR function checks if the first or last name is blank using the ISBLANK function. If any one of them is blank, the OR function returns true. If the OR function returns true, the IF function returns this validation message. Otherwise, it returns this message. As you can see, whenever we skip entering the first or last names or both of them, the validation message appears. We can use the ISBLANK function along with the IF function to apply a certain formula only if all the cells are not blank. For example, in this Excel sheet, I have ordered data for 2 months. I want to calculate total orders for a particular item only if the data for 2 months is available. If data for any month is missing, I do not want to calculate the total. To do that, I am going to use this formula. Here, the ISBLANK function checks if the individual cell is blank or not. The OR function returns true if any of the cells are blank, and it returns false if none of the cells are blank. If the OR function returns true, the if function returns an empty string. Otherwise, it applies the sum function to calculate the total orders for 2 months. Watch these videos to learn more Excel tips, tricks, and how-to tutorials. If you found this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to our channel.